罪も汚れも全部まとめて払ってやる。
Every year, a few action anime blow up across the timeline and the rest just vanish without a trace. No clips, no discourse, no fandom. So I spent way too long digging through the graveyard, the cancelled, the overshadowed, the ones that deserve a moment and never got it. Here are some action shonen anime I think we owe a rewatch. Mission Yozakura Family has a premise tailor-made to go viral, and somehow this 2024 anime slipped past most people entirely. I can't blame it either. It was also the time when Solo Leveling, Windbreaker, Kaiju number 8 were taking over. The hook is great. A painfully shy boy marries into a clan of elite operatives, which means his new in-laws now have legal grounds to surveil, test, and occasionally try to assassinate him, all in the name of love, of course. It's a chaotic family comedy welded to genuinely slick espionage action, and when it decides to take a fight seriously, it commits hard. There's heart underneath all the absurdity, the way it keeps circling back to a kid who just wants people to call home. The animation had some rough patches, sure, but the bones here are strong, and I'd bet on a comeback.
これがむつみと俺と夜桜家のそれ響け高まり。
Picture a world locked in permanent night, lit only by a fake amber sun, where mail carriers cross monster-infested wilds to deliver letters that hold pieces of people's hearts. That's the setting of Degami Bachi, and honestly, the imagery alone is why it stuck with me. Alright, I'm gonna be straight with you. This leans more towards a melancholy adventure than wall-to-wall action, so temper expectations, okay? But when the letter bees fire their heart-powered guns at the giant armored insects roaming the dark, it earns its place here. What loneliness lingers through every frame? A quiet ache about connection in a world that's literally starved of light. Larg seeing crying his way through deliveries became a meme, but the emotional sincerity is real. It's gentle, strange, and a little forgotten. If you want something softer between the power fantasies on this list, start here and let it breathe.
響けここや。
You know the most frustrating thing about AI art? You finally generate the perfect shot of a character you love, and then it just sits there, doesn't it? A pretty picture, frozen forever. That's where today's sponsor, PixAI, changes the game for me. It's a platform built specifically for anime-style generation, over 15 million users, and it climbed to #1 in revenue in Japan's App Store graphics/design category. The engine behind it is Tsubaki Point 2, their flagship model, and the part I genuinely didn't expect is how little work it asks of you. No prompt engineering, no wrestling with syntax. I just typed a plain English description and it handed me something clean. Then you hit animate. Their version 4.0 preview takes that still and turns it into a clip of up to 15 seconds with voice, lip sync, and actual cinematic camera movement. Same character, same outfit, same details, now breathing. And it all runs in a single browser tab. The best bit? Daily free credits. So you can mess around with it without paying a cent. PixAI also has 4 million plus monthly active users with a huge community library where you can copy prompts and settings from polished creations. You can try PixAI for free. Links in the description. A boy gets branded as something less than human by his entire village, works the fields in total isolation, and barely blinks when his own arm rips off and crawls back to him. That's the opening of Kemono Jihen, and it tells you exactly what kind of show this is. It's a yokai detective story where the monsters aren't symbols for anything, they're just kids trying to work out where they fit. Gabane might be the quietest lead I've ever cheered for, a blank-faced half-ghoul whose flat delivery hides something surprisingly soft underneath. The fights land hard, the folklore runs deep, and the warmth catches you off guard. It dropped in 2021, got drowned out by flashier neighbours, and signed off on a cliffhanger begging for a season 2 that never came. Track it down while it's still findable. Here's something that broke my brain a little. The guy who's been keeping Detective Conan running for 30 years used to write a completely unhinged samurai action comedy. Yaiba is Gosho Aoyama off the leash, and in 2025, which studio finally gave it the glossy adaptation it always deserved? The premise is gloriously stupid, in the best way though, okay? A feral kid who's raised in the jungle comes back to civilization, picks the dumbest possible fight, and ends up clashing over legendary swords that house actual gods. It's loud, fast, and completely unbothered by logic. The kind of pure shonen energy modern shows are often too self-aware to attempt. Watching it, I feel like I was 10 again. If you ever wondered what Conan's creator does when nobody's asking him to solve a murder, this is your answer, and it absolutely rips. If you ever wanted Indiana Jones reimagined with psychic super soldiers and a lot more collateral damage, Spriggan is calling your name. The setup is pure pulp glory. Ancient civilizations left behind world-ending relics, and a covert organization called Arkham employs elite agents to seal them away before various militaries weaponize them. Aga Yu Omine is a high schooler by day and a walk-in arsenal by night, which is exactly as ridiculous and fun as it sounds. The 1998 film is a gorgeously animated slab of late 90s action, and Netflix's 2022 series gave the property a sleek modern coat of paint. I appreciate how unpretentious it is. No tortured metaphors, no 12-episode setup, just globe-trotting espionage, exploding ruins, and one ludicrously capable teenager. Sometimes you don't want art. Sometimes you want a man punching through a tank. I went into Orient expecting greatness because it comes from Shinobu Otaka, the mind behind Magi, one of my favourite fantasy epics of the 2010s. What I got was messier, but I still can't shake my fondness for it. The pitch is strong. It's an alternate feudal Japan. Demons crushed humanity centuries ago, samurai became myth, and two miners dream of forming a band of warriors to reclaim the country. There's a real fire in that premise, a story about reviving honor in a world that mocked it. The 2022 adaptation sadly did the manga few favors, with stiff action and visuals that rarely matched Otaka's ambition. So I'm recommending the idea as much as the execution. If you love underdog shonen with a beating heart and you can forgive a rough coat of animation, there's something genuinely earnest here worth your patience. Okay, this is the one on the list I'm most aggressively going to bat for. Undead Unluck is the most inventive battle shonen I've read in ages, and David Productions' 2023 anime captured a real chunk of why. Start with the leads. A girl whose power inflicts catastrophic misfortune on anyone she touches, and an immortal man who literally can't die. Put them together and the chemistry is electric, equal parts tragic and hilarious. Then, the world cracks open into a wild metagame of negators fighting living rules like truth, spoil and unrepair, and the power system gets dizzyingly clever without ever losing the emotion. It's horny, it's heartfelt, it's completely unhinged, and it somehow makes all three work at once. The anime only scratches the surface of where this goes. If you watch one show off this entire list, please make it this one.
砕けろ。
Dragons have already won. That's where Ragnar Crimson begins. In a world where the strongest dragons casually annihilate humanity and the survivors barely register as prey. Then, a hollow-eyed boy throws everything away to kill them anyway. I came for the premise and stayed for the visuals, because the 2023 anime swings for genuinely deranged, kinetic spectacle on what was clearly not a blockbuster budget. The animators understood the assignment. Every clash feels like a knife fight at the edge of a cliff. Ragnar himself is a fascinatingly bleak protagonist, a kid who traded his future for a single purpose, and wears that emptiness like armor. Pair him with Crimson, a flamboyant time-dispatched dragon hunter, and the dynamic gets weird and great. The pacing stumbles and the story can be hard to follow early on. Push through that though, because the highs here are stratospheric.
自分の死は恐れるのか。
Some shows haunt me precisely because of how they ended, and Claymore is near the top of that list. For most of its run, it's a lean, brutal dark fantasy about silver-eyed women, part human and part demon, hired to slay the monsters preying on a medieval world. Claire's slow, grim quest for revenge gave me everything I wanted. Visceral swordplay, a genuinely menacing bestiary, and a heroine carved out of pure grief. And then the 2007 anime ran out of manga and invented its own rushed finale, fumbling one of the better source stories of its era. I've made my peace with that though. Well, mostly. The journey still hits hard even knowing that the destination falters. If you go in treating the anime as an incomplete first act and then pick up the manga to see it through, you'll understand why this one still aches for so many of us.
忘れるな。お前には生きてほしいと思う者たちがいることを。生きろ、クレア。おーい、そっちのウサ耳の人、こっちに来て。誰？この先。
12 monsters themed after the Chinese zodiac enter a battle royale and only one walks out. On paper, Juni Taisen sounds like 100 other death games. What sets it apart is the writer behind it, Nisi Oisin, who treats each fighter as a complete short story before feeding them to the meat grinder. The structure's the gimmick and the genius. We hop into a combatant's full backstory right as they're about to die, so every kill carries weight that you didn't expect to feel. The 2017 anime looks fantastic, all sleek character designs and stylish, snappy violence. Is it deep? Well, not especially. Is it fair to the characters? Absolutely not. And I guess that's kind of the point here. I think of it as a beautiful, cynical magic trick, daring you to get attached and then yanking the rug out every time. Come for the carnage, stay for the cruelty.
猿の戦士、平和裏に殺す。シャリ。
目の戦士、うじゃうじゃ殺す。ネズミ。攻撃開始！
A soldier kneels in a field, aiming a weapon at a comrade who's now part beast, part man, and entirely doomed. That image basically is to the abandoned sacred beasts. Set in a fictional civil war loosely echoing America's own, it asks a cruel question. What happens to the super soldiers after they win the war for you? The answer is that they slowly lose their humanity and become the very monsters they were built to defeat, hunted down one by a former comrade. It's a western dressed in gothic tragedy, and that melancholy hooked me harder than the action actually did. The 2019 adaptation is a bit uneven, with fights that don't always match the weight of the writing. Still, the central idea, the cost soldiers pay long after the fighting stops, gives it a soul most Monster of the Week shows lack. Underseen, imperfect, and quietly devastating when it lands. I I've got a soft spot for fantasy that feels genuinely grand, and the heroic legend of Arslan scratches that itch better than almost anything from its decade. Adapted by Hiromu Arakawa of Full Metal Alchemist fame, it follows a gentle young prince whose kingdom collapses in a single catastrophic battle, forcing him to rebuild from nothing alongside a loyal handful of warriors. What I love about this one is the scale. These are armies, sieges, and political betrayals, not just one-on-one duels, and the strategy gives the action real stakes. Arslan himself is a refreshing kind of hero, someone who leads through kindness in a story that constantly tests whether kindness can survive. The production dipped in its second season, I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but the foundation, a coming-of-age epic about earning a crown rather than inheriting it, remains one of the most underrated war fantasies of recent memory.
何言ってんだ燃え散れ
Code Breaker sells itself on a simple, seductive idea: an eye for an eye, enforced by a boy who burns evil people alive with blue flame. Rei Ogami is a vigilante executioner working off the books, and the moral knot at the center, whether answering murder with murder makes you righteous or just another monster, gives the show more bite than its premise suggests. I'll be honest about the flaws first, okay? The 2012 anime crams a long manga into 13 episodes, and the ending arrives abruptly, like someone tripped over the power cord. But the ride there has style to spare. With slick fights and a genuinely compelling anti-hero you're never quite sure that you should be rooting for. The writing keeps things morally murky in a way that I actually appreciated. I mean, it is flawed and rushed, but if a flame-wielding edgelord with a conscience sounds appealing, then you'll have fun with this one.
ちょいと失礼
今の視線はフェイクか
やだよ
A school where the girls carry swords and the newly enrolled boys get violently reformed into obedient little gentlemen. That's the playground of Buso Shoujo Machiavellism, and I respect how completely it commits to the bit. Our hero is a transfer student who flatly refuses to be tamed, and watching him outfight a council of armed enforcers one duel at a time is just clean, uncomplicated fun. The 2017 anime knows exactly what it is: a stylish action comedy with a sharp choreography and zero pretension about being anything deeper. I kept grinning because of the energy of the fights, each rival bringing a distinct weapon and personality so no two clashes feel the same. It's not really reinventing the wheel, and it won't change your life, but for a breezy, swordy good time that goes down easy on a weeknight, it's a far better watch than its obscurity suggests. Most war anime are really about the battles. Pumpkin Scissors is more interested in the part nobody films: aftermath, the rubble, the soldiers who come home broken, and the country pretending the wound already healed. Set in the uneasy peace after a brutal conflict, it follows a relief unit trying to help citizens while powerful people would rather bury the war's ugliest secrets. Then there's Randall Oland, a hulking, soft-spoken veteran who flips a lantern at his hip and becomes a one-man horror show against tanks. Now that contrast, gentle giant to remorseless killing machine, still unsettles me. The 2006 production isn't always pretty, and the manga sprints far past where the anime stops, but its anger is genuine, its politics have teeth, and it respects its audience. This is the quiet, furious show I keep recommending to people who think they've outgrown the genre.
弾がない
Humanity is losing. Monstrous parasites have driven what's left of mankind behind giant walls, and the only weapons capable of fighting back are little girls cursed with the same infection that's killing the world. That's the grim arithmetic of Black Bullet. I'll admit the show is a tonal mess, okay? Lurching between bleak horror and lighter beats that don't actually always fit. But when it leans into its darkness, it draws blood. The relationship between the older mercenary and his younger partner gives the carnage a tragic spine, and a couple of its mid-series gut punches genuinely shocked me when I first watched it in 2014. It's the kind of flawed, ambitious show that aimed higher than it could reach, and I find that more interesting than a safe success. If you can stomach its rough edges and heavy themes, there's a bleak, beating heart in there worth meeting. Twin Star Exorcist has a setup I'm a complete sucker for.
罪も汚れも全部まとめて払ってやる。
You've got two gifted young exorcists who were told by a prophecy that they're destined to marry and birth the strongest exorcist in history. Cue plenty of flustered teenagers and a whole lot of demon slaying. Rokuro and Benio make a fun central pair, each carrying scars that make their reluctant partnership feel earned rather than forced. The early stretch of the 2016 anime is genuinely gripping, with vivid spellwork and impurity creatures that are both grotesque and inventive. I'm not going to oversell it. The back half drifts into anime original filler that dilutes the momentum considerably, but the foundation, a supernatural action romance with real chemistry and stylish exorcisms, is stronger than its reputation lets on. Watch the first core with an open mind, and you might find yourself, like me, weirdly invested in two kids fighting their fate and their feelings at once. Gekaishi is one of those shows that aired late at night, asked nothing of the hype machine, and just quietly told a really good story actually. I adore it for that humility. The setup sounds modest. A teenage boy and his childhood rival neighbour inherit the duty of guarding their school grounds, which sit atop a site that draws demons every single night, using barrier techniques to trap and destroy them. Across its long run, that simple monster hunting routine deepens into family legacy, slow burn romance, and surprisingly weighty drama about duty and loss. The 2006 adaptation looks clean, and the barrier-based fights are smarter than most, leaning on strategy over raw power. It rarely shows up on best of lists, and that's quite a shame actually. This is cozy, sincere, well-built shonen that trusts you to stick around, and I'm glad I did. I think you would be too.
これしかない。一つ目、二つ目。よし、勢いが弱まった。バナナを今だ。
まさか落ち込んでるんじゃ。
Rooftops at night, kids riding motorized skates, launching off ledges and grinding through the sky like gravity is a polite suggestion. That's the intoxicating fantasy Air Gear is selling, and at its best it's one of the coolest looking sports action hybrids around. Oh Great's artwork is gorgeous, all sleek motion and impossible aerial tricks, and the 2006 anime captures flashes of that high. I have to flag the obvious. This thing is wildly horny, and the adaptation cuts off long before the story finishes, so manage your expectations. But the central appeal, the sheer rush of flight, and the gang rivalries built around it still get my blood going. It's style over substance, absolutely. Yet the style is so distinct that I forgive it a lot. If you want pure adrenaline and aesthetic, and you don't mind an incomplete story, strap in for this one. Few shows make movement itself feel this exhilarating. Genichi is the rare martial arts anime that actually made me believe in the grind. Our hero starts as a spineless pushover who gets bullied into a dojo full of elite masters, and from there the show becomes a love letter to hard work, sweat, and slow, painful improvement. What I respect most is the grounding. Most of the fighting stays human scale, rooted in real disciplines rather than energy blasts, so every victory feels like Genichi clawed his way up an inch at a time. The 2006 series wraps comedy, romance, and surprisingly tense brawls into a package that's just deeply easy to root for. Watching a coward gradually become someone who stands his ground is a journey I never get tired of. It's wholesome in the best sense, a show about becoming strong to protect people rather than to dominate them. I'd happily put this one on again tomorrow.
Gambare! それはどういう意味？
Medaka Box pulled a switch on me that I still think about. It opens as a goofy school comedy about a perfect student council president solving classmates' problems, and I almost wrote it off as just some fluff. Then, somewhere along the way, it morphs into a genuinely bonkers battle series about superhuman abilities and people literally built to be impossible to beat. That's Nishio-sen's fingerprints again, smuggling dense ideas about talent and humanity inside a shonen wrapper. The 2012 anime covers the transition, and watching the tone pivot from slice of life into escalating power clashes is half the fun. Medaka herself is divisive, a heroine so absurdly gifted she borders on a deconstruction of the perfect protagonist. I get why she rubs people the wrong way, but if you stick past the slow start, there's a strange, clever show hiding here, and the back half rewards the patience. If you're enjoying this video, I truly appreciate if you can give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you. Get Backers is a peak early 2000s anime comfort food for me, the kind of show I associate with discovering the medium in the first place. The premise is endearingly simple. Two broke freelancers with a near perfect recovery rate take any job to get back what you've lost, whether it's a stolen necklace or something far stranger. Ban wields a hypnotic technique that traps enemies in a minute of nightmares. Ginji can discharge electricity like a living power line, and their bickering partnership carries the whole thing. The 2002 series ages like a lot of its era does, a little dated in its pacing and its animation, yet there's a scrappy charm here that I can't help adore, escalating from petty heists into genuinely high-stakes supernatural battles. I mean, it's not flawless and it loses steam late, but still, if you miss when anime felt this loose and freewheeling, Get Backers is a warm trip back. A man the size of a fridge tracks down a beast through a jungle, sizes up a creature that could swallow him whole, and licks his lips because he's thinking about dinner. Welcome to Toriko, the most gloriously meat-headed show I love ironically. The premise is perfect lunchtime anime. In a world obsessed with food, elite gourmet hunters battle colossal monsters to claim the ultimate ingredients. It's muscle, appetite, and escalating absurdity cranked to the ceiling, and the 2011 anime delivers exactly that with a big, dumb grin. Western fans largely ignored it, which I'll never quite get, because few shows are this committed to their own ridiculous bit. Yes, it's long and the pacing drags in places, but the sheer joyful excess, the spectacle of treating a meal like a final boss, is its own reward. Sometimes I just want hype and food, and Toriko is a feast. Black Cat gives me exactly what I want from a sleek assassin story, then surprises me by having something to say. Train Hartnett is a former elite killer for a shadowy organization who walks away from that life to become a happy-go-lucky bounty hunter, and the show is really about whether a person built for death can choose to live differently. That redemption arc, anchored by his friendship with the man who shows him another path, gives the gunfights an emotional undertow that I wasn't expecting. The 2005 anime diverges from the manga, and the back half wobbles short, but Train is a genuinely likable lead, and the early stretch, all cool gunplay and moral reckoning, holds up nicely. It's a low-key character-driven action show that never got its flowers. If you want something stylish but with a soft center, Black Cat is an easy, satisfying watch. Not every ninja show wants to make you cheer, and Nabari no O is proof. This one carries a current of sadness through nearly every single episode, and that's exactly why it stuck with me. The story follows an apathetic boy who learns he holds a forbidden technique inside him that every ninja faction wants to claim. The melancholy makes it linger, the sense of a kid dragged into a war he never chose, surrounded by people whose loyalties keep shifting. The 2008 adaptation is quieter and more introspective than its premise implies, trading constant spectacle for mood and character. The action is solid when it comes comes, but the heart is in the relationships, especially one ambiguous bond that fans still discuss. It's a softer, sadder kind of ninja story, and if you're in the right headspace, it is beautiful. I think about its ending more than I expected to. A 100 child demons are sent to the human world, each paired with a partner and a spellbook, and forced to battle until only one remains to become king. It sounds cute. It absolutely wrecked me as a kid. Zatch Bell hides real emotional devastation under its colourful Monster of the Week surface, and revisiting it as an adult, I was floored by how much it earns. The bond between a lonely boy and the amnesiac little demon he's sworn to protect becomes the spine of something genuinely moving, especially as rival pairs reveal heartbreaking reasons for fighting. The 2003 anime is long and a bit dated, there's no question about that, but certain arcs, certain goodbyes hit with such a force most prestige dramas can't even manage. This is the rare childhood show that holds up because it took its young audience's feelings seriously. I'm not crying, you're crying. Okay, alright, maybe I'm crying a little bit. Flame of Rekka is a relic of a specific 90s movement, back when every other shonen was about a hot-headed kid discovering he had elemental powers and a destiny. I mean that affectionately, because this one did the formula with real conviction. Rekka is a teenager obsessed with ninja who turns out to command living flame, and the story spirals into tournaments, ancient grudges, and a colourful roster of fighters with bizarre abilities. The 1997 anime is unmistakably of its time, with that grainy, cel-animated texture and an ending that stops well short of the manga's conclusion. But there's a sincerity to its over-the-top energy that I find charming rather than dated. It wears its Yu Yu Hakusho inspiration openly and isn't ashamed of it. For anyone nostalgic for that classic battle shonen rhythm, this is a satisfying deep cut. Just be ready to read the manga actually to finish it. Buso Renkin is the project Nobuhiro Watsuki cooked up between drafts of Rurouni Kenshin, and you can feel that restless creative energy all over it. The premise is pure shonen comfort. A boy is killed protecting a stranger, gets resurrected with an all-chemical device where his heart used to be, and joins a secret war against monstrous humanoids called homunculi. His weapon is a massive lance, his ally is a no-nonsense alchemist warrior, and the whole thing moves at a brisk, confident clip. The 2006 anime is compact at 26 episodes, which I count as a real strength since it tells a complete story without overstaying its welcome. The standout for me is Papillion, a flamboyant, butterfly-masked villain who gleefully devours every scene he's in. It isn't Watsuki's masterpiece, but it is tight, fun, and overlooked. Exactly the kind of self-contained battle series that's getting rare. A cathedral at midnight. A boy with a cursed left eye that lets him see the souls trapped inside grinning mechanical demons. D-Grey Man drips with gothic atmosphere, and that mood is why it stayed lodged in my memory for years. Alan Walker is an exorcist fighting the Akuma, machines built from human grief, on behalf of a church-like order locked in a war against a being called the Millennial Earl. The premise is heavy, theological, and gorgeously gloomy, and Katsura Hoshino's world feels genuinely lived in and sorrowful. The catch, and it's a real one, is that the manga has suffered hiatus after hiatus, and the anime never got to adapt a true conclusion. So I'm recommending an unfinished symphony here, okay? But what exists, especially the haunting Noah's Ark, is some of the most distinctive dark fantasy of its generation. It deserves a complete ending, and I'm still quietly hoping that it's going to get one. I'm closing on Magi because it might be the most criminally overlooked fantasy epic of the 2010s, and I'm not gonna let that go quietly. Loosely spun from the tales of the Arabian Nights, it follows a mysterious flute-playing boy and a prince raised near the slums as they explore mystical dungeons and get pulled into the fate of entire nations. What blindsided me was the ambition. Beneath the bright adventure surface lies a genuinely thoughtful story about colonialism, fate, and how civilizations rise and rot, the kind of political weight you rarely see in a shonen this fun. The 2 seasons from 2012 and 2013 look fantastic, with magic that's both spectacular and inventive. It ends before the manga does, which stings, yet the journey is more than worth taking. If anything here deserves a second life, it's this. Magi was special, and I'm gonna keep saying it until people listen.
あれは第1級得意点シンドバッド
バナナサイカー
So that's my 30. Some got cancelled, some got buried, but all of them deserve more eyes than what they got. So tell me, which one are you actually going to add to your list, and which overlooked banger did I leave off? Drop it in the comments and let's argue about it. I'll catch you in the next one.